Hey, everybody. That is Gary Smith.
Hello.
That is Kaz Kenny.
Kapow!
And I am Eddie Bramble, and this is episode 54 of the Blackwater's Edge podcast.
Holy
54.
Along with a few technical difficulties as we got started here.
Yeah.
That was the year I was born.
Hey, every weekend seemed to have something to do with something in our lives, right?
Yeah, it's always like that. So, Kaz,
Everything's numbers.
it's always numbers. That's right. Kaz wants to start us off with this week's fishing report.
So it's pretty cut and dry. You know, it's pretty much been snakeheads, few bass here, few bass there. Some crappie, I heard. You got the migratory white perch in here right now, so a lot of people are catching some pretty decent perch. I've heard of a few 12 and 13 inchers. I've seen some pictures, so we're seeing a few perch here coming in. If you know where to find hickory shad and things like that, you might find a few of them around. A lot of the gar are starting to show up in some areas, so if you're a gar guy and you like them, you'll be able to find some of them around here real soon. I've seen several myself. What else? I mean, it's just basically snakeheads, That's everything that's been going on here. I mean, everybody's catching a lot of snake. Not everybody, but some people are catching some. Some people aren't catching some. You're watching guys complain. Yeah. You're watching guys brag. So
here's what I've learned.
You
Since we had that cold snap, what was it, last week when it snowed for a day?
Yeah.
It's been spotty since then. Ever since it snowed.
And the thing I've tried to tell people is at night, it's cold. So
right.
If the tide has been pulled out, which we've had extremely low tides here the last week. I mean, they have been low. And even up north, they've been low. So what you got to take into consideration when you're coming here fishing and you're all excited to come just like everybody else, it's all about timing. It's all about catching the change, the rollover in the water, I like to call it, in the afternoon. When that cold water finally gets enough warmth to it, that it excites the fish to go in a little bit of a feeding frenzy and do their thing. But you got to keep in mind that when the water's out and that mud is just laying there at 40, 39, 44 degrees all night long, just exposed, and that water that's 47 comes over that 39-degree water, and put that average together, you're back down at 43 degrees. So You've just totally shut the bite off. You've got them not entertained anymore, and they just want to get warm. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
When the sun's not shining on, it gets cold.
Right.
And one thing I've learned talking to people for the past week, ever since that cold snap hit, it's been an afternoon bite.
Oh, yeah.
Especially this time of year usually is anyway, but ever since that cold snap hit, it really takes all day for that water to get to the right temperature for them to get active.
We started doing some filming yesterday with one of the media platforms, and, it's just like anything else. When we filmed with MPT, it was X amount of times before it came together.
MPT took 3 or 4 shoots.
Yeah, I mean, and then me with DNR, I mean, God, how many times were we shooting to try to lay down the footage that they needed? So, you just have to be patient, And yesterday, I don't think me and you pretty much lost our patience by the time the afternoon had come around.
I caught a catfish.
Well, I mean, Eddie missed a big snakehead at one spot.
I missed a big man. I was so mad too. He was just missed that swim bait. He was about 6 inches behind it.
I missed a fish one time, not 4, but 6 times.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yep. And then there was another one. I cast it, and it was 4 times. He blew behind that Mepps. Boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
It's just I don't know if it was a commitment thing or. I did notice this is something. I always like to look what's in the water. So where I was yesterday, I noticed that there was just thousands and thousands of these little, I don't know if they were mosquito fish or what they were, but they were tiny, tiny, tiny. And in front of every pipe we were at, wherever that tide was going out, if you really put on a pair of glasses, look down a little bit, or even take your little butterfly net sometimes, just dip in front of you, that'll give you a great idea of what's going on in front of you. Knowing what the bait is that you're dealing with really plays a critical role in my fishing every time I go. So
when I saw
guys
that,
see me, dipping that stuff, that's why I'm doing that. I want to see what is it that I'm not doing. So in an application like that, yesterday my buddy got his small chatterbaits out and he nailed them at that spot.
I was just about to say when we first started, I started throwing the 5.5 inch hyperelastics is what I started on.
Yep.
Could not. I mean, nothing even looked twice at it. Just let it swim on by. Never even had a nibble or nothing. I switched to the 4.5 inch hyperelastics. That's when I missed the big blow up.
I saw that.
And then I switched to the micro chatterbait with our 3.5 inch swim bait, and I missed 3 or 4 blow ups on that one, and that was even more frustrating.
And then the same spot that we were at. 4 hours later, the phone call comes.
Everybody would talk to you.
Everybody's out there nailing them. I'm sending a couple friends over there that had a tough time through the day. They wound up getting some fish. I think the coolest thing is how we all kind of help each other.
Oh, yeah. That's always the best thing.
That's like the coolest thing. Catfish-wise, we're still seeing some catfish. We're seeing something a little funny here in Blackwater, and it's just the amount of gizzard shad that we're seeing now pouring into some of these nets. And the numbers are just like we've never seen. I don't want to put the numbers out there, but it's a pretty crazy number, and you've been hearing me talk about the effects of the removal of smaller fish, this panfish, just any kind of fish. When we start removing things from that circle that are responsible for predating on that particular species, these are the effects that you're going to see. You're going to see explosions in shad. You're going to be explosions in the carp. You're going to see explosions in those kind of fish.
I think it's interesting that they've caught a few snakeheads this year with carp in them.
Yes,
I've seen that before.
Yeah, we have. We knew the black salties worked, and we even had a video I think that Cornflower did last year, or the year before, where he cut one open, and it was actually a black salty that you would buy at the pet store. And that thing was like this big. It was like a 3-pound fish. And then we had that carp last week with Justin that was 18 inches and a 32-inch fish.
Pantry's getting dry, man.
Yeah,
you gotta get what's left.
That's
man,
right.
We might have to start a food feeding program here to keep things going. Maybe we can start like a snakehead homeless shelter for these guys that run out of food or something. I got a perfect shelter for them. So,
I wouldn't sweat it.
Fishing wise, that's about where we are. But before we get into some crazy stuff, why don't we give away something real quick right off the bat? What do you think, Gary? Give something
I
out?
agree. Give it away.
Where's that grab bag at? You seen that grab bag anywhere?
Candy, I'm cool.
That's what I'm trying to do is keep him off my candy. See, I got my little stash sitting over here, and he's in here working my candy corns over there. Was 352 pieces. There's only 42 now.
That's something in here. What we got? Whoa.
Is that
old school?
That's some old school tackle. There we go. Yep. So there's a pack of one runs. That's the color them boys said was working pretty good with that glitter in it.
It's got a good glitter.
I think to win that you need to say, keeping it old school.
Sounds good to me.
Yep. Keeping it old. First one to say keeping it old school gets that bait.
I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and give away something else too. Let's give away a couple things while we're at it. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. We had a pretty good day today. We had a pretty good week. And
we got that.
Whoa, that's a good one. A whopper plopper.
Oh, I've got it. Whop it like you plop it.
Ooh, there you go. Whop it good.
You say that in the comments. Whop it like you plop it, and you get the whopper plopper.
There you go. So, the eel pot guys, they're seeing a few eels this year, which is kind of good to see some eels coming in here. Not a lot, but they're seeing a few of them. I'm just trying to think, the white perch, the yellow perch are pretty much done running. You'll still catch them. They stay here. You may see one or two here and there. We did hear of a couple people that found some. Not any kind of number, but just happy to hear that they found a few. Right. So that was a good sign. I don't know, man. I think that's about everything with fishing. Up to the north, it's been the same thing. Look at Roy and them guys up there on the west side snakes and everything they're doing. I mean, they're struggling just like we are. I mean, not that they're striking out, but, the heavy hit hasn't happened yet. And this is what people don't understand. Everybody sees these massive pictures on Facebook today, and then they're gone for 4 days. And then they see them again for a couple of days, and they're gone for a few days.
Yeah,
it's all about weather.
Water isn't happening.
It's all about weather right now. A lot of guys are hitting some top water, believe it or not, in the afternoons. You know what I mean? They got to be in evening time, and you got to know where them shallows are. But if you're coming here and you're thinking you're just going to fire up 100 fish right away, has anybody done it? Yeah, I know a few people have caught over 100 in a day. All three of us do.
Oh, yeah.
And, if you're looking for that day, you're going to have to wait another 2 weeks, I think, before that busts open, before we get to the pairing stage that everybody's just eating like piranhas. And even talking to the netters, they're saying the same thing, that we watched the snakeheads kind of pull back from where they were in these nets because the water got cold, so we moved the nets a little lower south. And you know where we found them? A little lower south in some deeper water. So,
I just hope that it doesn't go right from cold to hot and they just pair up right on top.
We've had that before,
If we can get a decent line of spring weather, I think it's going to be on fire. And I'm hoping, here's my hope. If we can get that good 2 weeks of a solid 75, 80 degrees, get that water temperature back up.
Not just that, but stay above 50 overnight, not dip down below 50.
I think it's going to line up just perfect for that May 1st tournament.
I think it is, dude. I think we're going to have a pretty good harvest down here for that baby. I'll tell you that, because just looking at nets and looking where we are with that and seeing the first influx and then seeing the pull away, then seeing that influx come back and we loaded hard, and then to see him pull back again with the cold weather, I think that the delay is actually going to make the first, biomass that we see pretty extravagant. So that's really a good thing. I mean, catfishing wise, like I said, over a lot of the bridges in the Marshy Hope and up in the Chester River, catch some blue cats, big blue cats. Up the bay, I've seen some pictures of some big bass being caught, in the Susquehanna. I've seen a few pictures of some snakeheads being caught up there. But, as soon as Bush Creek and all them places open up and it gets warm, it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. I can tell you that,
So I think before we get into our guest, why don't we give away 2 more?
We'll give away 2 more prizes?
2 more, yeah.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
We got a pretty special guest today.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a fun one.
Koozie.
Oh, yeah.
Ah!
We wouldn't say
Can I do that one?
Yep.
My koozie's empty.
I love cheesesteaks, man.
I love cheesesteaks. Say I love
There you go.
cheesesteaks, you get that koozie.
Okay. One more. Old school again.
Uh-oh. Now, that was the one that I liked right there. I
Yep.
think I gave Carl Ward a couple packs of them, too. And really, that is kind of like the color of that
Monster Mint.
that shaddy, gray, white perchy, little bit of everything blend. You know what I mean?
Monster Mint. I like that, Gary.
There you go.
Monster Mint. There
So
you go,
I
Brian.
want Monster Mint. There it is. So for the koozie is I love cheesesteaks, and for the baits it's I love Monster Mint.
I love Monster Mint.
Yep. So there we
We
go.
go for broke.
Yeah, one more. Why
Yeah,
not?
why not?
Go at it.
Another old school.
Another pack of old school. Now, these lures right here, again, these were one runs, and I did give some of these to some guys that were down to the south fishing down in Cape Charles and out on the tunnel. And I can tell you what, they caught some really, really nice trout on them things. So that was good to see those pictures. Thank you.
Alrighty.
What do they got to say for that one?
I love trout.
I love trout. All right, so you got anything before we get into our guest?
I mean, I pretty much think we covered everything on. I'll tell you, Mepps did a lot of work this week out here. You know, Dixon's Baits did a lot of work out here this week. We'll get into talking about some of those baits that were effective. A little later on in the show. But I think without any further ado, let's bring him on, man.
So this week our guest is Congressman Andy Harris. Congressman, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine.
All right, so for those who don't know, why don't you tell a quick background about how you got into politics real quick?
Well, my parents were refugees really from Eastern Europe, from communism. They came to this country. To them, what the government does was always an important thing to keep an eye on. So after a career in medicine, I entered politics. I still do practice medicine a little bit. But now most of my time is taken up being the congressional representative for Maryland's 1st Congressional District.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Andy, that down here we have had, let's just call it a snakehead invasion. Let's call it what it is. My thing is, when we realized that we had trouble here and things were coming together, we reached out to several agencies, including yourself. I know the public would love to hear about the money that you've allocated for the great state of Maryland and the help afforded by that money. How were you able to allocate this funding, and how did this all come about?
Well, as you know, I sit on the Appropriations Committee, and because of that, we have oversight of the whole federal budget and where monies are spent. I realized that the federal government doesn't spend a whole lot of money on invasive species, and as we've kind of proven in Maryland, there are important invasive species issues. Right now, snakeheads, blue catfish, they're very important issues, and so in the appropriations process a year ago, what I did is I introduced an amendment to actually target funding for control of snakeheads. And it's only the second invasive species that's been targeted in a federal appropriations bill. The Asian carp, which is the problem up in the Great Lakes and especially the Chicago River, is the only other species targeted right now. But I felt it important. It's important for the vitality of the Chesapeake Bay. It's important we get the species under control. And honestly, since the Chesapeake Bay covers several states, it's a reasonable thing for the federal government to get involved in. I
agree 100% with you, and we've watched what's happened here just simply in Blackwater with the snakeheads, and it's great that we want to touch on blue cats too. Blue cats and snakeheads, kind of two different environments. The snakeheads, they like that shallow stuff. The blue cats, they like a little deeper water with more oxygen. So we're going to have to kind of come at two different angles to kind of handle this species, only because in the Blackwater, when the blue cats get in there, they don't live. So we know that that's not the issue that we're having. We know the snakeheads are 100% the issue within the refuge complex. Out in the bay, the crabbers are talking about, how many crabs and rockfish they're seeing in the bellies of these blue cats, So, that's something that I think is very important for us to touch on. Another thing I was thinking about was the rockfish decline. We've seen a lot of rockfish decline around the bay, and we also know that those snakeheads like to inhabit a lot of grass beds and things like that. So, one of the things that we've been thinking about here is what role are snakeheads and blue cats playing in with the decline of the rockfish? And we know that you're very familiar with what's been going on with our rockfish situation here. You know what I'm saying? So, good.
Yes, absolutely, no question about it. All these species interact. I mean, there's only so much food in the bay. So when you have the tremendous growth of either the snakehead species or the blue catfish species, other species are going to suffer. Aside from the fact that obviously that younger rockfish are also consumed by the invasive species. So it's a very complicated scenario.
Oh my Lord!
But what you've got to do. Yeah, you've got to control the invasive species. I mean, the bottom line is they can get out of control. We did it, and we may touch on it today with nutria on the lower shore. And this is just an example of where we've got to look at invasive species. We've got to look at their effect on the entire ecosystem, because obviously the crab population and the rockfish population are very important economically for the bay, and we certainly can't do anything that would threaten them.
Absolutely. And, I think one of the greatest things that we're doing right now is educating people. And that's how we're going to get people involved. That's how we're going to get people to be more active in harvesting these fish. And I think that this is something great that we're doing all together for not just the community, but for the whole entire state of Maryland. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, and I know we all feel funny about masks and things like that, but we just recently heard about some mask mandates, and we understand that they may possibly be asking us to wear them on the workboat. What have you heard as far as the mask mandate goes here in Maryland for these people that are working on the water? Have you heard anything about that?
Well, yeah. So the origin of this mandate was the executive order that President Biden signed. I think it was on his first or second day in office, that required masks on all federal transportation. So if you go to the airport, you have to wear a mask. But what got caught up in it is that the commercial fishermen hold federal licenses. They are determined to be part of this federal, transportation system in some way, and therefore we found out that the Coast Guard was actually potentially tasked with enforcing the mask mandate on commercial fishing boats. And we thought this is very unusual. This is outdoors.
Wow.
I mean, the science pretty clear. Yeah, the science pretty clearly shows you don't get COVID outdoors, much less working on a boat where the wind is blowing. And so we wrote to the Coast Guard, and we said, look, we think that you should spend your time on better things. There are more important things the Coast Guard does than actually, climb aboard a fishing vessel to make sure everybody's wearing a mask.
That seems like that's a lot of extra work if I'm thinking the way you might be thinking. You know what I'm saying?
So has the Coast Guard responded to that letter yet?
Well, I think informally what we've heard is that they really don't intend, although, yes, technically they could enforce it. What we understand is they're just not, they're not going to consider that one of their primary objectives, which is actually the appropriate response. They have much more important things to do.
Yeah, I think they would agree with you on that matter. So back to the rockfish a little bit. Is there any update on the latest rockfish news as far as what's going to happen with the commercial seasons this year?
We know right now that you can't even do catch and release on rockfish or anything like that.
Yeah, everything's closed right now.
Everything's changing up.
That's right. I understand April. Right. There's no catching at all of rockfish. Look, the population. We're going to have to see what's happening again with the invasive species, with changes going on in the bay. I hope we don't end up with another moratorium, but honestly, we might be heading that way. That would be devastating, I think, for some of the economy, certainly for both recreational and commercial fishermen. But we got to keep a close eye on it.
This is a thought that I want to throw at you that I don't think a lot of people have thought about. So let me just toss this at you real quick. A lot of the decline in rockfish, they point the fingers at the commercial guy. They point the fingers at the recreational guy. I've been sitting here just looking at when they were kind of showing up in the Upper Bay and in the Susquehanna, and how much is up there around Aberdeen Proving Ground is just unreal. It is unreal what's going on in Aberdeen Proving Ground. But the bottom line is, with these fish going north, they're going to have some impact up there. But the rockfish, all those rockfish travel, all the way up the bay to those flats, Susquehanna Flats, all the grass beds in front of Sassafras, Gunpowder, all those places. That's where they reproduce. That's where those young stay for 6 to 8 months until they're big enough to swim up those creeks, to spend the summer there and get a little bigger so they can start going back and forth and not get ate all the time. One of the thoughts that I've had that I'm not sure many people have looked into.
We've talked about this quite a bit, though.
I've been talking about it a lot. You've seen this rockfish decline kind of happen as these snakeheads were actually booming throughout the bay. So my question has been, I think that we need to take a look at these grass beds and see what's going on, because if you look at the shape of a snakehead versus a largemouth bass, one of these things that snakeheads are great at is rooting like a pig through stuff. So they can get in that grass and just 3 or 4 of them push the bait out to another group of fish waiting above just to eat them. They'll work together like that,
And the problem we're really seeing now is we know that snakeheads are in the Susquehanna grass beds.
Absolutely.
And we're worried that the snakeheads are really having an adverse effect on the rockfish population, regardless of what the recreational and commercial woodmen are doing.
And a lot of this problem could be helped, and we know we're asking for a lot. Yeah. A lot of this problem could be helped if we could get access to some of these closed waters in the upper bay that they're not letting us fish, because honestly, all they're doing is just pumping out millions and millions of snakeheads that aren't being caught. You know what I'm saying? So that's something I think we look at as far as the rockfish is, are these snakeheads having any kind of effect? We know the blue cats are, but now that we have the snakeheads in the picture too, what is that doing?
Yeah, we have a lot to learn because, again, snakeheads are new to the Chesapeake Bay. They've been around Maryland now, I guess, for about 15 years.
Yeah, I was on the first study in Crofton, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's right. That's where they started. I was in the state senate on the committee that heard the first testimony about them. But they're relatively new to the bay itself, and we're going to have to learn a lot, because if we don't understand exactly those kind of interactions, like you're saying, in the grass beds, out in other parts of the bay, out in again more shallow waters, we have to understand what the interaction is, because we can't afford to threaten the rockfish population.
And it's not just that; it's deeper. It's ducks. It's things like that, wood ducks. Things like that. So I mean, it's so much deeper than the surface, and that's where we've got to start as a community, looking at what this domino effect really is from the top down to the bottom. And I want you to know I appreciate my time talking to you. I'm going to give you over to Eddie. Eddie, continue, Mr. Congressman Harris, and thank you very much for your time today.
So shifting gears. So what are some other areas where we're getting involved at the federal level to help sustain the environment here on the Eastern Shore?
Well, we're going to get one thing we are doing is we've controlled nutria. Yep. Again, I touched on it before. Another invasive species that was devastating the Blackwater refuge, because nutria, eat the roots of the plants in the swamps, and large areas were being destroyed in the Blackwater. But with the successful effort, it's lasted about 12 years. With the successful effort, we have eliminated them in Maryland. Now they're showing up in Virginia apparently, but we're going to help them eliminate them there. But we do have to do that, because that's all part of the ecosystem. Everything that's done with that. The other thing that we touched on briefly are the migratory birds, both geese and ducks. I know a lot of people are disappointed that we have the one goose limit in Maryland, 1 a day limit. But, the reason is that we have a whole lot more hunters. I mean, this is one of the most famous places for goose hunting on the East Coast. And because of that, the pressure is pretty high on these flocks. So I'm not sure, again, until the populations begin to increase, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to change that limit, which puts us at a little disadvantage to our surrounding states, where the bag limit is 2. But, again, we have to watch that population pretty carefully.
So do you expect anything to maybe is there any expectation that we could have a moratorium on geese anytime soon? Is that declining even further?
No, I don't think it's going to be a moratorium. I think that what we'd see before we had a moratorium in Maryland, we would have a bag limit decrease in the surrounding states, and we're not even hearing that that's going to happen. But I don't think we're going to go back to the two goose bag limits and soon. But we just have to watch the populations of all these, whether it's the fish, whether it's the birds. We just got to watch these populations carefully. The mallard duck, the mallards, we know that the Atlantic population has been steadily declining over 2 decades. So those harvest numbers were cut as well. But we think that that might be a little more serious because than the geese problem. The geese problem was from a bad season, a bad nesting season a couple of years back. But the mallard duck population is a steady decline, so that's actually a little more worrisome. I think we're going to recover the geese population at some point. The mallard ducks, we're going to have to watch very carefully.
And like Kaz was saying earlier, in the local area here in the Blackwater anyway, that's a big part of that has been the snakeheads. I mean, I don't know if you know or not, but here at the store we sell duck lures for snakeheads, and they're a big hit. I mean, if you take them into the area where there are wood duck boxes, you can catch them all day long in the summertime.
We tell folks here all the time, that if you're fishing and you're out in Blackwater and you see a wood duck box, you see something like that, make sure you make a couple casts around it because they're smart enough. They've learned over time that the weirdest thing about these fish is the memory that they have. And they know that these duck boxes, there's going to be something. There's going to be ducks coming out of it, maybe a snake, something else, some little bird. You never know what's in there. A mouse. They know it's a good place to find a piece of food. So, and we've got plenty of gut content pictures of, feet webbing in the stomachs, the bodies, and things like that. I've talked to several of the guys here that raise ducks, and their biggest thing is they're having problems raising ducks because the ducks won't get in the water once they've been bit 3 or 4 times on their leg. And it's not so much that they're dying because the snakeheads are eating them; they're dying because the snakeheads are causing infection in their feet. And when they get back in the water after it's cleared up and they get bit again, they're like, "I'm not getting in the water anymore." Now the foxes and coons and everybody's picking up all these ducks that they're trying to raise. So again, what people aren't seeing is the domino effect in this picture,
That's absolutely right. And there's no question it's affecting the duck population. No question at all. And like you say, because we know what the stomach contents are on the snakehead, we know that they like ducks.
And muskrat. I mean, that's the thing. I've had muskrat guys here come to me like, "Kaz, what's going on with muskrats? The muskrats, they're not on the banks. I'm not getting them." And, we've got plenty of pictures of muskrats in their stomach, So if they're not afraid to eat a 2-pound or 3-pound meal. And that's what I think folks don't understand is that we've introduced a new predator to the circulation that's 3 times the size of what our previous non-native resident or whatever you want to call largemouth bass is. You got fish that are only averaging 2 or 3 pounds, most places when on an average when snakeheads are rooted in, you got them averaging 8 to 10 pounds.
Right.
You have totally replaced that predator with a predator that eats 3 times the amount of food that a bass ever ate. Like I said, that this whole domino thing, people aren't looking at, it's crazy. And we've got to tell people.
You're absolutely right. There's no question about it. This is a different predator from other predators. Because of the wide variety that they eat larger things. I mean, it's very serious. And again, that's why I was glad to be able to have it designated as literally only the 2nd invasive species in the country that has targeted funding.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I know, Congressman, you were talking about the Asian carp a while ago, and the snakeheads are very much like them. The Nutria program, I mean, look how long it's taken to eradicate them. I think the last one identified in Maryland was May 7th, 2016. So it's a pretty good shot that they're pretty much eradicated from Maryland. But the Asian carp, not so easy. They can travel, they move, people move them. People that can go out and catch snakeheads and transport them to different places. They weren't transported by birds and turtles and whatever else that moves in the water.
Into Pennsylvania, anyway.
So the nutrients were a lot easier to get some kind of control over it. And I don't know in the future what's going to happen with this, but it's going to be a very difficult road to do with the snakeheads. If we can switch a little bit. How about CWC or CWD? I'm sorry, chronic waste disorder. I know on the eastern shore it's nowhere near as prevalent as it is on the western shore. We have had some here. I know several farmers. One in fact that lost 35 deer on his farm 2 years ago. I haven't heard any numbers near that, and for the most part on the eastern shore, but on the western shore, it's been drastic in some places. Is there any news on that or funding for studies on it?
Well, we do know that in really out in Western Maryland, not even in Central Maryland as many, but in Western Maryland, it is a major problem. We know that. There is federal funding for the research of and for mitigation of the disease, and the Maryland Department of Natural Resources does receive some of those dollars for their work as well. We're trying to keep an eye on things because again, it's rare on the Eastern Shore. In fact, maybe it's appeared, maybe it hasn't yet, but we're going to keep our eye on that because we have to make sure that we deal with this disease before it spreads, and we have to understand more about the disease. We have to understand more about the dangers, how to control it. Thank goodness for now, it's not on the Eastern Shore, but it's only a matter of time. If it's in Western Maryland, it will get here eventually.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems we've had here is that blue tongue. We've seen that a couple times over the last couple of years too. We've seen that.
Like you said, luckily it's not been prevalent yet, but like you said, it's definitely on its way.
A question I wanted to ask you, Congressman, is this. We know you've allocated some funds, and I'm very proud of the fact of the amount of funds that you've been able to allocate so far for some of the research. Let's brag a little bit to the public about some of the things that you've done on behalf of invasives. How much money has Congressman Harris been able to add to the budget here for snakehead research, for snakehead eradication? Here's the thing. I don't think we're going to eradicate these fish, but we have to have a program in place to get people to harvest fish,
and at least to mitigate the population.
And it's like I tell people, when you come here, I'm not asking you to murder every fish you catch. I'm asking you to take a couple home. And the biggest thing that we've seen there, even talking with the netters that I work with and things like that, already this year we have caught double the numbers that we saw last year this early on. So what is coming forward this year, I think, is going to be just another doubling of the mass. The other thing is 8 out of 10 snakeheads that we're catching here are females. Why is that? We need to figure out why. Why do we have so much reproduction going on? It's just to watch it keep going. My point is this. We've been bringing the people here. We've been catching fish, and I'm talking thousands of pounds a weekend with no problem with all these people coming here and fishing, and we're still not making progress. That's what has us scared to death, and that's why we're scared to death for the rest of the state, being that we're not even there. Like, I grew up on the Bush River, and what I've watched happen up there in simply 3 years is just, it breaks my heart, So, we know these fish are growing. What's going to happen in these other areas? We don't see yet. And all these guys that say, we're not having a problem. It's too early for you to say we're not having a problem. So how much funding have you been able to get together to help this cause? Let the public know how hard you're working.
Sure. So in actual dollars, the dollar amount that we had in the budget is $250,000. But more important than the dollar amount is that it's on the federal radar now. So again, that's an indication. Again, only the second invasive species named in the United States, in an appropriations bill. This puts it again on the Fish and Wildlife Service. This puts it on their radar screen. This makes it something important. It facilitated, for instance, a meeting among an annual meeting for Maryland, Virginia, Delaware. The Fish and Wildlife Service, a meeting every year that where people get together to compare notes on it, because we've got to learn a lot about it. And again, even above and beyond the targeted specific dollar amount, this means that this is something that's important. It's a multi-state effort. Again, that's where, because look, I'm a person who believes the federal government doesn't have to get involved in everything. In fact, I believe they should get involved in less than they are. But in this issue, it's a multi-state issue. And this affects multiple states. So it makes sense for the federal government to come in and kind of shepherd the resources, make sure that we're doing the right research, that we're studying the fish. We're looking at where it is within the Chesapeake Bay, and as we know, even areas outside the Chesapeake Bay now. So we have to. It was a very important start, and I was glad to be a part of it.
Well, everybody always asks me, do I have one more before we go? And Eddie looked over and said, do you have any more one mores? I said, I certainly do. So I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you from everybody here on the Eastern Shore and from the state of Maryland for everything that you're doing. The one thing that the watermen here on the Eastern Shore asked me to ask you is that you support them, and I told them you absolutely do. So let these boys here on the Eastern Shore know that you're here for them. You're not here to fight them.
Oh, no, absolutely. In fact, we didn't touch on one of the other native species, the oysters, but obviously the oyster population is important to support, and I know that that the the federal and state agencies sometimes are at loggerheads with the watermen because again, and I'll put in air quotes here, the scientists have one belief on how we can best improve our oyster population, and the people who are actually involved on a day-to-day basis, who are out there on the water, seeing what these efforts do and whether it's successful or not, the watermen, sometimes their opinions disregarded. So we have to bring these watermen opinions because, again, they're the people. Their livelihood depends upon oysters being plentiful. So they have a really vested interest in making sure that the oyster population recovers. We should pay much more attention to what they think and what they say and what their opinion is than I think otherwise some of the federal and state agencies would do. So I feel part of my role is to bring their voice into the discussion because
Amen.
Otherwise they're just not, they won't be listened to.
Right.
Our biggest thing here was raising our voice. Our biggest here was asking for support, and I want to say, again, thank you for all the support you've given us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for getting the attention that we needed here. And I really wish that people around the state were more vocal like we have been here about what we've seen instead of trying to protect an area or protect a fish.
That's right. Congressman, we don't want to take up any more of your time, but like he said, thank you very much. And if there's anything we can do to help you in Washington to raise more awareness for invasive species or anything else, you definitely let us know, and we'll definitely give you a hand there.
I can promise you we're going to raise awareness, we're going to educate the public, and we're going to help build a better angler for the state of Maryland.
Absolutely. No, thank you. I'll take you up on that offer, and I want to thank you for inviting me on the podcast.
Yes, sir.
It was great having you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Have a great.
Is he off?
All good.
All
That
right.
was good stuff, everybody.
That was great stuff.
I'll tell you what, man. I what an honor for us.
Fantastic.
You know what I mean, what an honor for our community. What an honor for the state of Maryland.
Yeah, he does a great
mean?
job.
It's not just here; it's everywhere. That man works pretty hard with everything he's doing, and I'm grateful. So for all you out there that got to listen to Mr. Harris, I hope that you enjoyed that. We're going to move on to some things here past that. So if you have any questions that you want to ask or anything like that, be happy to help in any way that we can.
Just a heads up, the Whopper Popper, Brad Drotar, the old school, the darker grub, Jeremy Delanoy, and he also won the mint grub.
Oh,
And then
Monster Mint.
double down, baby.
And then B Canada won the trout grub, and she also won the koozie.
Hey man, we got some double winners
Cool.
this week. That's
Some
pretty
double
cool.
whammies, yeah.
So I guess we should really let Gary kind of give him a attaboy for the work that he's done here,
Yeah, for
trying to
sure.
help get us this snakeheadclub.com. He deserves that.
Yep.
And Gary, why don't you tell a little bit about the venue that you helped us to acquire,
Sure.
so that we
Well,
can get this Snakehead Club going in May?
We're blessed to have a good location right in Cambridge. If you can find Cambridge, you can find a location.
That's right.
It's the American Legion. If you come over the bridge into Cambridge, at the stoplight, when you get over the bridge, you want to be in the left lane. You're going to make a U-turn at the stoplight, go back 200 yards, and turn into the parking lot.
That's it.
The American Legion is the very last thing. If you're going back towards Easton, it's the very last place before you hit the bridge. So it's right there. You just make a U-turn. First meeting will be the 7th of May.
No.
No, excuse me.
Where did I have it written down at? Oh, there it is. The May 19th.
Yeah, May 19th.
It's going to be the third Wednesday of every month.
Yep.
So we'll have our tournament on May 1st,
Yep.
and then we'll follow that in
Yep.
2 weeks roughly with our first meeting of snakeheadclub.com.
Correct.
That's it.
Let's talk a little bit about the tournament. We're getting a lot of response, a
Yes,
lot of
we are.
feedback. People are starting to
Yep.
register. We want everybody to get in on this thing. We want you to be a part of this. So this
For
is gonna be
those
pretty
of you
big.
for those of you who have not registered yet, it is May 1st. So let's get over there. Actually, hold on. Give me Kaz talk. I'm going to put the link right here in the video. So tell them about the tournament.
So on May 1st, we're gonna do that. That's the date that we're gonna go. As far as lines in, everybody's been asking if they can start at midnight like we did last year. And no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do it right here. We're gonna start here at the Wolford store. We'll be able to get you parked either one side of the road. We'll be able to have you safely. If we got 100 cars, we'll have 100 cars here safely.
We'll figure out the parking.
We'll figure it out, and we've got the mayor behind us if we need some help with logistics. So just know that this is happening, man, and it's going to be big, and it's going to go down, and we want you here. So
what we're going to do is, everybody's going to meet here at the store, so there's no chance of lines in too early. Once you leave the store, you can have your lines in the water. Everybody can leave here. I believe we're going to say 5:30.
5:30, yep.
Yep. So 5:30 a.m. You're allowed to leave the store, and that's when lines can go in the water.
and we'll open up the store earlier.
Yep.
I'll come down here with you, and we'll open up, say, 4 o'clock or
Yep,
something
so
for
everybody
anybody
can
needs
get
to
ready.
grab anything
Yep.
for for their outing that they might have forgot. Because if you're like me, I can't tell you how many tournaments I've
What do you
gotten
mean, Kaz?
into.
You needed one more?
I get there and I'm missing half the crap that I had on the list that I needed to get. It's just that's my whole scatterbrain stuff. So I'm not good with lists, and I'm very, very good at going to a tournament and forgetting the 3 essential things that I definitely needed to have.
Yep.
So
But yeah, so May 1st, guys. I just put the link in the comments. If you missed it, there's also a link in the description of the video. For those of you guys listening to just the audio on our podcast sites, it'll be in the description for the podcast episode. It'll be we've got it all over the place. If you can't find it now, I don't know how to help you. but all your tickets. So we're not doing tickets in the store this year. All your registration is done online. So make sure you register online. You pay your entry fees all online. Everything's right on there, and that's how you're going to get into the tournament this year.
And everybody's been asking about weigh-ins. Your fish may not be brought to the weigh-in alive. Your fish may not be brought to the weigh-in half alive. Your fish must be. We need to know that your fish is killed.
Your fish needs to be dispatched.
We had a couple times last year with just new people that
it
weren't from
people
here.
It wasn't
It was legitimate mistakes. They weren't from here. They were from out of town visiting their family.
Yeah, they were
and wanted to enter a tournament because their family lived here and they saw it on the store.
Yep.
And unfortunately we had to disqualify them from the tournament because you can't show up here with a bunch of live snakeheads. It doesn't look good.
Right.
We will have DNR on hand like we have before.
Gut sampling.
Doing gut sampling and things like that. We're also going to have a program here for you folks that we're trying to work out with somebody else. And Gary, you might want to touch on that a little bit with Toby, donating some of the fish that you catch. Right. And we're going to donate that to a local homeless shelter. Okay. So it's also a good way for you as an angler to give back, to what we're asking for help for, you know what I mean? So, Gary, maybe touch on that a little bit. They're going to bring they can donate their whole fish and we'll take it from there. We'll deliver them there. And this was all, Gary kind of had his fingers in on this too. So, again,
Mr. Toby Fry, who's also with Coastal Conservancy, has made contact with a homeless shelter, I believe in Salisbury, and they're looking for basically fish to feed the homeless with, and I think we're going to be able to accommodate them. But we'll probably at the first meeting, club meeting, we'll also have some more about that.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Absolutely.
We'll talk to everybody about it.
I guess while we're talking about it, at the club meeting, we're going to have probably seating for about 70 people, more because of COVID restrictions. And
so what we're going to do,
you need to be a member.
Yep.
And
so we're going to do
he's working on it. He'll tell you about it.
For the seating arrangements, it's first come, first serve. So once we get past 70 members before the first meeting, then everybody after that will have to watch online unless somebody says they're not going to be able to make the meeting.
And this is where we have the value for those that can't make it. That's why we set it up this way. We got guys that are asking about this club that are in Asia. How can they be part of the club? How can they watch in? Well, you join the club.
They get the door pass for longest travel.
That's right. That's right. But I'm just saying we're going to have people from everywhere that want to see this because as the snakeheads grow and they spread, this is big hype, you know what I mean?
That's right.
And we've been in this business for a little bit, I think a couple minutes anyway. And I think that we'll be happy to help anybody that needs any help, as far as getting registered and stuff like that. Now, another thing I want to mention too, Eddie, before I forget, we talked about the tournaments and how you could sign up for tournaments and you can get yourself free entry into the snakeheadclub.com.
That's right. So if you want free membership to the Snakehead Club, sign up for all 4 tournaments. It's plain and simple. We don't have the registration up for the final 3 tournaments yet, but I'll have that before the signups for the club are online. So it'll all be up there. If you register for all 4 tournaments, you're in the club for free. Plain and simple. Automatically.
You get a free shirt. You get a free care package.
We'll have something.
You're getting your money back. You know what I mean? And the thing is, every week at these meetings, we're going to have special guests, there to do a piece. We're going to have the biologist there to do a little session. Door prizes, all kinds of stuff, 50-50 raffles. Food at the VFW.
Yeah, that's another thing, too. Anybody who's traveling to get here, the VFW will have...
No, American Legion, sorry.
American Legion.
I did it again.
Man, you boys are something on this.
The Legion will have a little concession stand there, and I believe they'll have drinks available as well as pizza and
the bar will be open, and they'll have the some limited kitchen open as well.
This is practically a brand new facility.
Oh my goodness, it's beautiful.
They had a fire a couple years ago.
I'm going to post some pictures up tonight of the pictures I took yesterday, so they can see what the accommodations look like. I was very impressed.
Very, very nice.
Yeah, beautiful place, beautiful. So,
and if you're a Legion member and you've never been there, like I say, it's a brand new facility. when you come over the bridge, make a U-turn and come back.
That's right.
It's definitely worth going in and looking at. Got a beautiful view. You sit and have a drink and look at the water. It's just
You're right on
nice.
the Chop Tank River,
Yep.
looking out there watching people reel them in off the Chop Tank River fishing pier, right?
You got one or two more giveaways? One or two more?
Yeah, I think we got some other stuff in here to give away. Let me see.
Yeah.
We got anything in there, Gary? Take a
Oh,
look
yeah,
at
we got
anything in that bag. I don't know if there's anything in that thing or not.
I got Kaz's wallet. Hold on.
That thing be floating
There
in
we
midair,
go.
brother.
Oh, boy,
Yeah,
look
I've
at
heard
that.
about these things.
Oh,
Man.
man. What is that?
These are
that's
old
the
school.
new 3.5-inch
Yeah, Snakehead Destroyer.
Snakehead Destroyer!
I'll tell you what, they are rocking on them too.
They are. They are. I mean, yesterday I had a chance to sit down with Donna down there. I don't know if you saw that, but she saw us. We were stepping out the door and said, hey, and I came back in, sat down with them, and, I showed them how to rig up the swim bait and how to do it. And
These are only available at Wolfer Store.
No, they're available at Anglers now
at
as well.
Anglers now.
Anglers
Yep,
now,
Anglers
yeah.
has
So,
them now.
I forgot about
Yep.
that. Yeah. So this was pretty impressive. We got up to Anglers. We did an open house, and we want to say thank you for everybody came out.
For sure.
I do want to
Yeah.
thank everybody, and everybody came out there that was buying them. And here's where we are with it. We only have a few packs left, and we're waiting on a new order to come in. So.
What do they have to say to win the bait?
Snakehead Destroyers with 3 exclamation points.
Snakehead Destroyers. There you go.
With 3 exclamation
With 3
points.
exclamation points. Got to have
Did the
3.
last one be done?
What else we got? We got anything else in
Got the
there?
bag?
Now, give the bag away, man. I don't need no bag.
There it is.
There you go. Nice bag.
Look,
Courtesy
for
of
those
Maryland
who don't
Waterways
know,
Foundation.
Let's talk a little bit about that. August the 14th, up in the Bush River, the Maryland Bass Federation Nation, the Maryland Waterways Foundation, SnakeheadLife.com, Blackwater's Edge, the Bait Boys. We are all going to be up there to help promote this tournament August the 14th at a Flying Point Marina or Flying Point Park. And then Roy Boyd, our good friend, he is going to handle Mariner Point Park for kayaks. So
For
we're going to
kayak
have
division,
2
yep.
separate sides of that thing. And big, big money.
Big?
Big, big.
So what do they got to say for the bag?
Big, big.
That's it. Big.
Big, big.
Big gets you the
Big,
bag,
big.
guys. So
That's pretty cut and dry, right? So just to touch on that a little bit, that's going to be a pretty big tournament up there. So you want to start reaching out to Scott Sewell, reach out to Roy Boyd, reach out to the Maryland Waterways, reach out to the Maryland Bass Federation. Let them know you care. Let them know you're interested. Let them know you want to help, and come on up there and catch some fish.
I heard Scott saw a snakehead big as a car and didn't realize it was a car.
I did hear about that. So for those of you, this is a good story. We're going to share that real quick. So Scott Saint came down last week. We hung out, showed him some snakeheads, gave the Maryland Waterways a little bit of education on things and what to look out for up there. And, we were talking about the new Live Scope, the fish finder. And Scott said, yeah, man, we found 2 cars, man, submerged in the middle river or wherever it was. He says, and we sure as hell went around 3 or 4 times, and they were definitely cars. So we called the police, and they're going to come get them. They sent divers out, but there were no bodies in it. But we did see today one of those vehicles on a rollback getting pulled out to water.
Looked like a Chrysler 300 to me.
And it looked like it should have a lot of barnacles on it, so it'd been down there for a hot minute. Had a nice barnacle paint job, if you might have
Had
noticed.
spinners on the headlights.
Yeah. Gary said, hey, man, that must be chrome tires. Look how shiny them things are. Now, they're still
You can
shiny
see-
as can be,
Yeah,
man.
the car's all cruddy in the picture, but you can still see the chrome band on the wheel.
Oh, my God.
before I forget, this week's Mepps Angler Spotlight of the Week, it goes to Frank Cherix. He caught this, and he didn't. I wish he'd have got the weight on this. I saw this post.
saw
and
the head
I
on
said,
this thing. Good
I said,
God.
man, that is
Yeah.
definitely the Angler Spotlight of the
That's a
Week right there.
knothead right there,
But
bro.
that is definitely a drag, and I wish he'd have got the
Nice
official
job,
weight
Frankie.
on it. But he caught this one on a Mepps. So, so that was a nice catch.
If you go through the page this week, you'll see quite a few pics in there with Mepps catches, and use the hashtag MEPPS catch when you post that. And then what I'll do is I'll work with my folks over at Mepps, and we'll get you over there and we'll get you on their page.
We're not saying that if you use a Mepps, you've got a higher chance of being in the Angler Spotlight of the Week. But
The Mepps Angler Spotlight of the Week.
But we're just saying there may be some connection there.
And you may very well get an opportunity to be spotlighted on the Mepps Facebook
That's
page
right.
itself and their social media platforms. So we do got some news on that end that we can't talk about
That's
yet.
right. Yeah, we got some.
It's
that's
really,
top
really
secret.
top secret stuff.
is top
So
secret.
That's not news. That's top secret.
it
Yeah,
is.
that's
So we've got some meetings coming up here real soon to talk about the new top secret stuff going on
Top
down
secret.
here. And we're really excited about that and looking forward to that. I'm just trying to think, tournament-wise, we're going to have 3 tournaments here. Four, I'm sorry. Explain about points, because I've had people asking me about points. How's this thing work?
So we changed the system up from 2019. 2019, you were able to accumulate points through the main tournament and the Calcuttas. Completely different this year. Strictly Angler of the Year points only comes from the main tournament. We had people who didn't understand that system until halfway through the year, and they were a little bit upset about it, which I understand that. That's on us for not communicating it more clearly. So, but this year we're making sure everybody knows the points are only from the main tournament, not from the Calcuttas. That's all.
The Calcuttas are bonus money. They're big bonus money. It's not. They're not little $25 checks and $10 checks. We can tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean,
everybody had a good time with them last year.
I mean, the guys who won money. I mean, we gave away thousands of dollars. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars, not just a couple thousand.
Calcuttas can make the big difference. Look at your uncle.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
When my uncle he won the
Frankie, right?
Yeah, Frank. He won the tuna for in the White Marlin Open. And he was not in the Calcuttas, and that was the difference between. I think he said he won $99,000, and I think second place took home. It was like 1.2 or 1.3 million dollars.
Because the Calcuttas.
That's the difference between being in the Calcuttas for the bigger tournaments. I mean, we're not quite on that level for the Snakehead tournaments, but still, you definitely feel the difference when you're in the Calcuttas.
But I mean, here's the thing. So the Calcuttas outside the spread that we're going to have that we know for sure. Let's walk through those Calcuttas again. And each additional Calcutta is $10.
Exactly. Yep.
To get into that, and that's separate from the main drag.
So before we even get into the paid Calcuttas, we have a free to enter youth division.
Yes.
16 and under, free to enter, and
and Leroy Heisen, we want we want you to be safe, but bring them kids over here
That's
for
right.
these tournaments, man. They win big stuff, man. We want to help you with what you're doing over there, trying to educate them kids. So
the youth division is free to enter. 16 and under, and the single heaviest snakehead wins the prize. There's no for the main tournaments, the top 5 get prizes in the main tournament. The Calcuttas and the youth division, it's only the top winner for each one.
Repeat that again. We're paying out on the top 5 places, not 3.
That's right. The top
so
5.
People know. And last
1 through 5
year,
win prizes. 1 through 5 win prizes, and then in the Calcuttas, only the top winner, only the first place gets prizes in the Calcuttas and the youth division. So the youth division is free to enter, 16 and under. You just bring your fish in, we'll weigh it, and then we've got you on there. The Calcuttas, you sign up when you register online. You also register for the Calcuttas. They are $10 additional each. And so if you get into everything for the tournament, it's going to cost you $90. So
the five Calcuttas outside we have.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So we have the heaviest fish of the tournament. We have the longest.
Now that goes for the whole year.
No. So we got one. Hold on. I'll get to that. Okay. So we got the heaviest fish of the tournament. We have the longest fish of the tournament. We have the most harvested with a minimum of 8 inches in the tournament. So yeah, bring in every fish you harvest. If you're in that Calcutta,
dip them with a net, hit them with a gig. As long as they're 8 inches, you got a bucket full. Bring them in. The guy won last year, had a half-gallon bucket full of fish, and he had the most fish.
So the main tournament is your 5 heaviest fishes. Your 5 heaviest fish. Your 5 heaviest snakeheads, it's a total weight for the 5 heaviest. The Calcuttas are you have your single heaviest, your single longest, the most harvested over 8 inches, and then your heaviest for the entire year. So there's one Calcutta you have to enter the Calcutta for each tournament if you want to have your fish count for that Calcutta. So, for example, if you are in that Calcutta for the first tournament, you get a good fish let's say it's 10 pounds, and you're in the running for it. Let's say in the second tournament you don't get into the Calcutta, you catch a 12-pounder. We stick with your 10-pounder in for the longest of the year because you didn't enter that Calcutta for that tournament. So you got to make sure you enter into that one for each tournament for it to count for when you catch that fish.
And if it's confusing and nobody understands, just give us
a call, send us a message.
Whatever.
We will get you. Yep, we will answer it as clearly as possible.
And I think the cool thing is, at the end of these, now that we have the American Legion as a venue up there, I mean, now we'll be able to bring the banquet back at the end of the year. We'll be able to have.
Yep, that's the plan. We haven't talked to them yet, but I wanted to talk to them once we got the club established.
I'm sure that won't be a problem.
So the plan is we're going to have So in 2019 we had a winners dinner after each tournament. This year we're only going to do that one at the end of the year for all the winners, COVID permitting, obviously. But that's kind of why we only wanted to do one dinner, because we didn't know what COVID was going to do. So we're going to have one dinner at the end of all the tournaments to celebrate all the winners through the year.
Very good. This is pretty exciting stuff. I mean,
absolutely,
we're doing it, man. We've been waiting a long time. We've been, I always second guess that in the beginning because I want everything right now, and I go. But I've learned through this, probably a lot of patience, which is something I'm not real good with.
I don't believe you.
Patience.
Yeah, you guys seen me lose my shit before. So, it ain't pretty when it happens. But I'm just trying to think. Is there anything else that we want to touch on? No, touched on the tournaments, touched on the club.
No one more's for me.
We got any questions here we need to answer? Anybody or anything?
No, I think everybody's just showing excitement.
There's
in
Mr.
the
Harris
chats.
Matos. What's going on, Harris? We'll be talking to you here real soon. I don't have anyone more. You guys?
Yeah, Gary, anyone more for you?
No.
That's it for me.
So,
So, I think Kaz, you ought to leave us. Oh, you've got something to give
Yeah, I
away
got
before
something to
we
give
got a
away.
giveaway.
That's
So
right.
I got to
That's
get my
right.
Kapow button ready.
That's right. You only need it one time, though. One
That's
time,
right.
because you know what? We weren't giving away a bunch of stuff for every week. We were giving away a bushel of guaranteed Maryland crabs. So, my good friend Galen Griffith. Now, this guy, I can't tell you how many times I see him all the time sharing stuff, doing stuff, trying to help spread the word. So, I didn't randomly just pick his name. The name picker app pulled his name out of there. So, Galen, you get a free bushel of mixed Maryland crabs, and you can pick them up this weekend at some point if you'd like to. I'll make arrangements with you. Shoot me a message. I know you're over here on the Eastern Shore somewhere, and it's probably more convenient to do that, so we'll get those crabs to you. So remember, on any of the posts, you know, if you share any of the Blackwater's Edge posts, if you share any of the crab stand posts, share anything, you know, the bait boys, you know, believe it or not, the name picker app's going to pick up on some of that stuff for our Blackwater giveaways, which we're going to start doing down the road. You know, you will have people that have been picked for drawings. You know, we'll do the giveaways, and then we'll have some other stuff too. So anyway, Galen, you get that free bushel of mixed Maryland crabs, and let's leave them with a little crabby jingle because, folks, it is time. I'm not sure if you looked on the Facebook page, but the boys are loaded. We loaded down with pots over the last couple of days. I'll send a little video up with that on the crab stand page, so if you want to see it, go over there and check it out. But in the meantime, my crabs, they have 3 first names. It's heavy, full, and fat. My crabs, they have a 4th name. Absolutely mustard packed! I like heavy crabs. I don't like light crabs. If you ask me where they're from, they're 100% guaranteed Maryland #1s. At that crab stand, here's a fact I know for sure we're coming back. Kapow! Kapow! Kapow!